Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Newsroom. I'm your host Khalid. But today is Friday, the 11th of October 2024. And these are the stories that we'll be highlighting during the course of the show. We'll begin, ladies and gentlemen, with the whole tangent of relations between Pakistan and China, whether it be the BRIs, China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, our mutual understanding and collaboration in so many diverse fields that I can't count them right now. But of course, we have a very able personality who's right here in the studios with whom we'll be highlighting and discussing in detail different aspects of this very important relationship. Also, some interesting questions for the future as well. This is going to be our first and only major segment today. We'll also be talking about the Nobel Peace Prize that has been now awarded to a Japanese group of atomic bomb survivors known as Nihon Hidankyo. And of course, we all know how Japan suffered at the hands of such devastation, and how important is it for this Nobel Peace Prize to be awarded now to these groups. We'll also be talking about the Nobel Prize in Literature that has been awarded to Hankang, the South Korean author best known for her surreal novel known as The Vegetarian that has gained huge acclaim across the world. Finally, we'll be talking about the International Day of the Girl Child that is being celebrated across the world, including in Pakistan, and the theme of this day is this year is Vision for the Future. This is the lineup for today. Let's begin without further ado. Our first and major segment today concerns Pakistan-China relations, the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, and the different tangents of relationship that have been explored and that will be explored, and so much more. We could not get everything in this one show, so we thought we'll highlight some of the aspects of it. We've been joined by a personality who could explain this much better than so many others. He's none other than Ambassador Khalil Hashmi. He's the ambassador of Pakistan to China, and he's right here with us in the studio. Thank you very much, Ambassador Hashmi, to have joined us.
Thanks for having me.
Ambassador Hashmi, let's begin a little bit with you and your 30 years illustrious career. I know it's a bit odd to kind of eulogize or talk about somebody's career, but it's important to for our viewers to understand where you come from as well. In the Foreign Service, at the United Nations, in China, this is your second term here, you were before there as well. How would you term your this 3 decades of foreign service in different parts of the world, and what are the highlights of this 3 decades old career?
In one sentence, never a dull moment.
All right.
Secondly, I think it's been a very rewarding career for me, and the reasons are twofold. One, I've had the opportunity to work both streams of work, which is what we call in diplomacy the bilateral stream, where I worked in China before, I was in Denmark. I was also fortunate enough to work on the multilateral stream. So I was in New York and Geneva. So all in all, I think, as I said, it has been a great experience representing Pakistan, making whatever little contribution to the policy making process and trying to create impact on ground. I don't think it is appropriate for me to make a judgment on the impact that I was able to create. That's for my institution and my colleagues to
All right, so maybe I'll ask them this very question. But what brings you to Pakistan this time around?
Well, first and foremost, this is part of regular consultations. We have an important event that is taking place, the 23rd meeting of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization's heads of government meeting that is taking place next week. So there are leaders, of course China is an important member, and we also cover from Beijing, Pakistan Embassy in Beijing covers Mongolia as well. And Mongolia is also an observer of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. So it's part of that consultation, and also inputs to what is going to be discussed here. So that's why I'm here.
All right. A small question on the SCO. How have you seen, or how do you observe Pakistan's role under the ambit of the SCO, and how do you feel it could be strengthened?
Well, if you look at it from this angle, Pakistan is an important and a big country within the SCO. It's the third largest population-wise. after China and India. So Pakistan is the largest country population-wise. It brings to the table a lot of experience, multilateral regional experience or processes, discussions on development, discussions on security, discussions on poverty alleviation to counterterrorism. So all of these subjects which are discussed, deliberated, Pakistan has a lot to say, a lot to contribute, and a lot to shape in terms of the outcomes that SCO produces. So I think overall Pakistan's contribution to SCO has been very noticeable, and it's an important organization for our region and for our adjacent regions. And especially in the new era, I think organizations like Shanghai Cooperation organizations have an important role to play. And it is an organization which is also, it's a Eurasian organization. So it connects South Asia, Central Asia, and the Eurasian heartland, and important countries like China, Russia, and others from Central Asia and South Asia.
Ambassador Hashmi, you also mentioned Mongolia. You said it's an observer state as far as the SCO is concerned, and your embassy also takes care of Mongolia. It also comes under your domain. We don't talk much about Mongolia. We know that it is a sparsely populated nation of 3.4 million, which is more or less sandwiched between China and Russia. Tell us a little bit more about Mongolia. How important is it to this region? And how do you view the relationship between Pakistan and Mongolia?
Well, Mongolia is an important country for several reasons. One, of course, it has a very rich and illustrious history and heritage. Many in Pakistan can relate to the Mongol Empire, the Halaku Khan, Chinggis Khan. Chinggis Khan is a national icon in Mongolia. I was there in April this year to present my credentials. I called on the president, I met the leadership. It is also important because it has been blessed with a lot of mineral and natural resources. It has a lot of experience in mining and also agriculture. But I think it has a lot of, as I said, history, so museums are very rich. There is a connection. For example, Karakoram, what we call the Karakoram mountains, Karakoram is actually a region, an important region in Mongolia.
All right.
Secondly, I think there is a small community of Pakistanis, some students, and a few business people there in Mongolia. We have a bilateral political consultation mechanism with them, and there are other opportunities. For example, Mongolia is very keen to have connectivity with Pakistan through China. So we are working with them, and we are exploring ways in which both countries can enhance their trade and economic cooperation. And we can possibly, Mongolia is also a member of Belt and Road Initiative. So CPEC provides that space because CPEC is a flagship project of the BRI. So connectivity is also an important agenda. There is so much to talk about Mongolia, but I think I would say one word, and that is, for those of us who have not visited, it is time to visit Mongolia, not in winters, of course.
All right, but in the summers or in the spring season maybe.
Lovely grasslands.
All right, all right. So I think you're also properly advocating the country that you represent for Pakistan as well. Also, I mean, coming back to the country where you are also principally, that is China. When we talk of China-Pakistan relations, one thing that has been told to us time and again, and we have seen various proofs of that in different forms over the decades, is the steadfast relationship that exists between the People's Republic of China and the Islamic Republic of Pakistan. All-weather strategic cooperative partnership is what has been said in different statements by our hierarchy over the years. How important is China for Pakistan? how important is China as a cornerstone of our foreign policy? What is the significance of this bond that exists between both our countries?
So when we say all-weather strategic cooperation, cooperative partnership, what it means is that this is a friendship of all seasons. And what we mean by that is, regardless of the changes in political setups internally, whether in Pakistan or in China, regardless of regional changes, regardless of changes at the international level, there are many ups and downs, and that's part of the international system. But regardless of these changes, whether national, regional or international, Pakistan-China relationship has been very stable and very steady, and it has always been on an upward trajectory. So that's why it is also a cornerstone of our foreign policy. And the reason is obvious. Our leaders, our diplomats, and our people from various walks of life, this is a relationship and a friendship which has been nurtured very carefully, and generation after generation. And why it is important? The reason is obvious. China is not only our neighbor, it's a great friend. We are joined by a land border, but it is now the world's second largest economy. It is also a manufacturing hub. It is an economic and investment and trade magnet. It is also an important political player in the world. So for all these reasons, I think this relationship that we have with China is for these reasons very consequential and very important, and it is my job and my colleagues in the embassy, of course, to work on it on a daily basis, to further deepen it, to diversify it, to work more on, for example, we are working, putting in a lot of effort on the business, investment and trade aspect of our relationship.
Before I go to the business, trade and investment part of the relationship, I'd like to highlight something that happened right this morning. There was an inauguration of a documentary that happened. You were here along with other dignitaries as well. And at the spot, you highlighted the different scopes of media collaboration between China and Pakistan. You talk about a television co-production agreement between the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting here in Pakistan and China's National Radio and Television Administration. You talk about another MOU between China Media Group and Pakistan Television Corporation as well, which you said is in the approval process. How can both the countries, in your point of view, further this media collaboration? Of course, these are two things that are in the pipeline, but what more can be done?
Well, co-production of TV programs, co-production of films, co-production of radio programs, documentaries. We all know media is an important medium to amplify. We talk about our friendship, we talk about our special, unique relationship. These people need to know, and they need to be reminded in different mediums. So, for example, joint collaboration on music is also a possibility. So we have a lot of institutional basis. We have several MOUs that are already in place. So it's TV is one medium. There are, as I said, film is another. There are already MOUs between, for example, news agencies are Associated Press of Pakistan and Xinhua News Agency. We have some already ongoing collaboration between PTV and CGTN of China. So I think there are the TV co-production is something that would provide a platform to further build on what you refer to as a documentary. And talking about this documentary, I think this is called From Xi'an to Gawada Port. It has 12 episodes, and I think it brilliantly captures the human spirit and the human face of our relationship. So the first episode, as soon as it is released, the audience would know. This is about the the people, both from Pakistan and China, back in the 60s, about 28,000 of them, who set out to build the Karakoram highway. And many of them, on both sides, they lost their lives. And a lot of Chinese, they are buried in our Gilgit-Baltistan region. And this first episode of this documentary talks about how bonds have been developed between families and people who lost their lives, and how at least one family has dedicated almost its entire life to taking care of the cemetery and looking after that cemetery. And when Chinese families come to visit that part, so they have developed special bonds, and this family has been to China. And that's the dominant part of the first episode. It's not just about that. It also captures picturesque Xi'an. Xi'an is the starting point of the ancient Silk Road. There's a lot to talk about that, but perhaps at some other time.
All right, with pleasure another time. Now, you talked about business, so let's move towards the business side of it. A high-level Chinese business delegation came in September this year to Pakistan, evinced keen interest to invest in various sectors of Pakistan economy and relocating Chinese industries here as well. They talked about sectors that include agriculture, livestock, information technology, energy, minerals, tourism and industry. Which are the avenues that interest Chinese business sector the most as far as Pakistan is concerned? And also, there was a lot of talk of the SIFC during the whole process. How could SIFC also facilitate the process for the Chinese businessmen?
Two things. First is, I think it's a collaborative effort, what the embassy in Pakistan, embassy in Beijing is doing. Of course, we are doing it in very close collaboration with Board of Investment, Ministry of Commerce, SIFC and others. And we have, put in a lot of effort and focus on trade and investment. And when the Prime Minister visited China in June this year, so we have generated a lot of momentum, and I'll give you some statistics which would illustrate how that momentum has been generated and how are we sustaining it. So the basic idea was that we did a study at the embassy in January this year, and we looked at how much China imports annually. That was our starting point. The number varies between $2.6 to $2.7 trillion. So we looked at who is selling what in what quantity, what is Pakistan contributing, what are Pakistan's exports to China, in which sectors do we have the comparative advantage of, do we have the potential. So this was our starting point, and that led us in 3-4 months, led us to one path that we chose, and that was the identification of 13 sectors, which are in effect, if we look at some of the subsectors, that comes to around 22 sectors. So which include, for example, big areas, manufacturing industry area, for example, mines and minerals, iron and steel, petrochemicals, agriculture, IT, traditional sectors, textiles, apparel, leather, footwear, plastics, food. So with this background, we organized the business conference in Shenzhen.
All right, we'll move back to the business conference, but we have to go to a short break, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be right back. We are in discussion with Ambassador Khalil Hashmi, Ambassador of Pakistan to China. We'll be right back after a break. Welcome back, and in Newsroom we're discussing Pakistan-China relations, and we have with us Ambassador Khalil Hashmi, who is the ambassador of Pakistan to the People's Republic of China. He was telling us about the 22 sectors that his embassy has been working on diligently since the very beginning of this year, and we'll ask him to explain a little bit more on that. Yes, Excellency, would you tell us those 22 sectors? What are the priority areas amongst those 22 sectors as well?
So as I said, this was the background. We worked on these, we came to this conclusion that we need to work on these 22 sectors. This is based on our comparative strength or comparative advantage at this moment, but also taking into account what are the relative strengths, and if we were to attract Chinese investments in particular areas, let's say 14, 15 sectors, we can enhance our productive capacity, because without enhancing our productive capacity, without having export surplus, it would always remain a mere dream of enhancing our exports. So that's why we came up with this idea, and this was the background in which we held this Shenzhen Business Conference. So what is significant about that business conference was that we mobilized 250 Chinese companies in these 22 sectors, and then we mobilized 105 companies, and a lot of effort was made here in Islamabad, the Board of Investment, Ministry of Commerce and others. So 105 Pakistani companies in these sectors, they traveled to Shenzhen, and we did the B2B, the business to business, we provided them that platform. And I think it is unprecedented in Pakistan's history probably that in one day we organized nearly 1,000 meetings between these 250 Chinese companies and 105. And with each meeting, this was about on an average 8.5 minutes, because 1,000 meetings under 7 hours.
That is unprecedented. I've never heard of 1,000 meetings
with
in a day.
interpretership. So that's the kind of momentum we generated. But convening the meeting is one step, but what comes out of it is even more important. So 30 MOUs were signed on that day, and we have tracked those. 16 have been operationalized. So we created that momentum, and that momentum, since then what we have done is we mobilized 160 Chinese companies. This is again a first which came to Pakistan in August, the Food and Agriculture Expo in Karachi, and this is the highest number of Chinese companies participating. So again, participation is one metric, but what was more important, what came out of it. So Chinese companies were the highest in number. They signed 6 contracts, not MOUs or agreements, 6 contracts valuing over $50 million. They also signed separate, and this is something that I witnessed myself, and I was here, and then they signed 13 MOUs also. MOUs are, as we know, it's an indication of intent. It takes time sometimes to convert this into an agreement or a contract. After that, we have convened 3 investment conferences or meetings in China. One was in Beijing, all 3, by the way, in September. First was on the sidelines of the China International Fair for Trade in Services. It's called CIFTIS, and we did it on our own. We invited associations and big businesses from Pakistan. They contributed. We did not spend even a single penny from the government kitty. We organized it in a way, so we created a Pakistan pavilion. We provided them space. They contributed, but we held an investment conference in which about 150 people came, both Pakistan side and Chinese. And there they signed 1 contract and 1 MOU, and that 1 contract value was $350 million. Then we organized another energy-focused investment conference in Xi'an, the Shanxi province, where the Minister for Petroleum participated, other companies, OGTCL, Pakistan Petroleum Limited, Pakistan Refinery, and Thercoal Energy Board, they participated. And we organized an investment conference, also an investment roundtable, but also B2B meetings. There too, some MOUs have been signed. We are tracking them, what comes out of it. We are pushing people. And finally, we held another investment conference in Beijing, same month, towards the end of September. That was focused on partly on technology side, and partly on agriculture, and partly on surgical instruments.
All right.
So this is the kind of momentum that we are generating, and now we have planned 7 more road shows in China, starting from end of this month. We are focusing another event purely focused on fisheries, followed by 1 week after we will do it on leather and footwear, and then after a month on textile and apparel, and then in plastics, then in food, again vegetable and fruits, and finally animal fodder and plastics.
So, this is all being done to evince interest of the Chinese companies and the Chinese people as well, so that more and more robust bilateral cooperation could be held in these very avenues.
Yeah, it's a very specific and targeted. The idea is to encourage, convince Chinese companies in these sectors to come to Pakistan, and then do joint ventures with Pakistani companies and invest in special economic zones that we have created. We have created the export processing zone, free trade zone in Gwadar, for example. So we are explaining to them, these are the incentives that we are providing, please come. And then we are also explaining to them what is in it for them, why should they invest in Pakistan. The labor cost is quite low compared to China. Of course, maybe our energy cost is high, but it is offset by the competitive labor cost. But we have opportunity, we have a free trade agreement with China, so they can come, produce here, and then take a lot of, produce and then export back to China with zero rated duty. A lot of things, our agriculture numbers are going up as far as China is concerned. But they can also add value 40%, and then they can export to, we have market access to European Union. We have a free trade agreement that is almost final with the Gulf cooperation countries, so they can export there. Central Asia is another market, Africa is another market. So these are all things that we are mobilizing, convincing, and this is what we are very much focused on, trade and investment cooperation.
You talked of Shanxi. I'd like to just refer to a latest development that has happened concerning China's Shanxi Coal and Chemical Industry Group that has expressed interest in investing in technology and joint ventures to produce chemicals from coal deposits in the southern region of Sindh province. Is it a development of what all the work that you've been doing since the last few months?
Yes, the energy focus of our investment conference was pretty much on these areas. So one area that we are and Shanxi province, by the way, they have a lot of expertise in coal gasification, coal mining and producing energy. It's probably the top province, and they have a lot of companies. So that's why when the Prime Minister visited China, he also spent a day in Shanxi, in Xi'an. So they have a lot of companies, state-owned and others. So we focused on coal conversion, for example. Right now we are generating power through imported coal. About $2 billion we spend on imported coal. So we're looking at very actively in the possibility of using our own Thar coal and then to substitute it. This is called coal conversion. We are looking at possibilities to use the Chinese technology and capital and management experience and see how can we generate gas from coal, and also coal to chemical, like downstream industry, petrochemicals, for example. So all of these areas where Shanxi province and Xi'an-based companies, they have a lot of expertise. So this was the focus of it. A lot of work is underway, and I think we should be expecting some good results. Some of the work would entail some technical and financial feasibilities first. They would have to ascertain how to structure it, whether at the end of the day, whether it would make commercial sense to, when we convert Thar coal, for example, to generate electricity in the power plants that we have established, for example, in Saiwal or in Port Qasim, the transportation of it, and then, first mining additional coal in Thar coal. Then because it's a lignite coal, it requires special treatment, special technology to do it. So all things added, would it be feasible to replace it? So all of this needs a study.
One of the basic avenues, and you have been working on it very diligently since you assumed office of the Ambassador of Pakistan to China, is the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. We all know about it. We know that the new phase has begun, the phase 2 of the China-Pakistan economic corridor. So many corridors that we talk about, growth corridor, a livelihood enhancing corridor, an innovation corridor, a green corridor, an open corridor, and aligning them to further the development process between both China and Pakistan. Which are the corridors that you are concentrating on right now as far as CPEC is concerned?
So the Prime Minister's visit, apart from what we focused on trade and investment, there was a lot of focus on upgradation of CPEC, which means the phase 2 of CPEC. And you spoke about the 5 corridors. So these 5, we are aligning them with 5 E's framework that we have in Pakistan. For example, the E Pakistan, exports, environmental protection, which is climate change related things, energy and equity, so education, sorry. So we are trying to align these 5 corridors with 5 E's, and within the rubric of what President Xi Jinping presented at the 3rd Belt and Road Forum, the 8 points, which there is a lot of complementarity between 5 corridors, 5 E's of Pakistan's framework, and also what President Xi Jinping has presented. So we are in conversations in terms of going into the 2nd phase of corridor, the upgraded version of CPEC. So there would be a lot of focus in terms of areas, if you ask me. So agriculture, IT, so traditional areas, but new technology, green development. When we talk about green, green is electric vehicles, batteries, solar panels, integrated circuit, semiconductors, all of these new things. But also Pakistan is still primarily an agriculture country, so about food security, products, crops, new varieties of seeds to enhance our, per hectare production. Also in other areas, as I spoke about, manufacturing, enhancing our manufacturing capacity in various sectors where we have an advantage, like textile, footwear, and other areas.
All right, Ambassador Hashmi, speaking of connectivity, during the recent trip of our Foreign Minister and Deputy Prime Minister to China, a lot of issues regarding the connectivity projects that are currently in process between the two countries, including the upgradation of ML1, the Gwadar Port, realignment of the Karakoram Highway Phase 2 were also discussed. What is the latest as far as those connectivity projects are concerned, and what is in the pipeline as far as more connectivity projects between the two countries under this upgraded CPEC is concerned?
So, for example, we have already in place the framework agreement for ML1. So we are working on the financing part of it. That's one piece. So both sides agreed in the last visit of the Prime Minister, and the joint statement speaks about a phased approach. So in terms of doing the ML1 project in phases. So that's on ML1. The second is on Karakoram Highway Phase 2. It's the realignment of from Tharkot to Raikot section, because we are building a dam. So part of the KKH will be submerged. So during the Prime Minister's visit, we also signed a framework agreement, and now we are working on the financing part of that project. So as far as Gwadar is concerned, so there are different pieces of it. So Gwadar is a 300 megawatt power project that we are working on. We're also working on the phase 2 of the East Bay Expressway, which will connect the new Gwadar International Airport, which is ready and will be launched soon. And also investments into the free trade zone in Gwadar. So a lot of other projects, energy projects, I could go on, but I think this is just to give you a flavor on what is going into the second phase of CPEC.
Wonderful, and you've given an actual flavor of what we should expect and what is going to happen in the coming months. And we hope to really see more of you, Ambassador Khalid Hashmi, because you are the voice of both the countries, and you are the best person to enlighten us on what has been happening as far as Pakistan-China collaboration, cooperation, and of course the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor is concerned. We wish you all the very best with all of these projects that you have been working so diligently on, and I'm sure majority of your time is being spent on these very projects since the beginning of this year. We wish you all the very best with that, and we hope to see more of you at the end of the year so that we can discuss what has happened between our discussion now and the summit. Thank you very much, sir, to have joined us again. Ladies and gentlemen, very quickly at the end, let's come to our last three stories. Two of them concerns Nobel Prizes. The first is the Nobel Peace Prize that has been now awarded to a Japanese group of atomic bomb survivors. Now, Nihon Hidankyo is a grassroots movement of survivors from Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The group's efforts have helped establish a nuclear taboo, and it is for this reason that this organization has been given the Nobel Peace Prize this year. We all remember the devastation that happened in Nagasaki and Hiroshima when the nuclear explosion, the bombs were of course exploded in this region, and whatever the devastation that happened is still being suffered by the generations in these areas, and the work that has been done by those to now to alleviate such effects is commendable, and also how Japan has been also on the forefront for the non-use of such technology in the future is also quite commendable. Next, the Literature Nobel Prize has been awarded to Hankang, who is a South Korean author known best for her surreal novel, which is known as The Vegetarian. It was awarded the prize in literature yesterday. Han was receiving the honor for her intense poetic prose, as the Academy said, that confronts historical traumas and exposes the fragility of human life. This novel was published in Korea in 2007 and won the 2016 International Booker Prize also in 2016 after it was translated in the English language. So congratulations, Ms. Han, to also have earned this prize. Finally, let's come to the International Day of the Girl Child that is being celebrated across the world, including in Pakistan. The theme this year of this day is girls' vision for the future. In fact, girls are the vision of the future. Girls are the harbingers of our future generations as well. And the more we take care of them, the more we do justice to their issues, the more we will become stable as a society and as a nation. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we come to an end of the news. We'll see you inshallah on Monday with news stories and segments that pertain to us, you and Pakistan. It's the weekend, so we hope you have a wonderful one. Take care. Allah Hafiz.